We love to think of electric vehicles as the shining knights of the environmental revolution. They are often hailed as the ultimate solution to our pollution problems, the heroes that will save our planet from the brink of environmental disaster. Sleek, silent, and seemingly guilt-free, they promise a future free from the chokehold of exhaust fumes. With their whisper-quiet engines and zero tailpipe emissions, they seem like the perfect answer to our prayers for cleaner air and quieter streets. But what if I told you that our beloved EVs harbor a dirty little secret, a secret that could tarnish their spotless reputation and make us rethink their role in our green future? What if those pristine white knights are actually leaving a trail of toxic dust in their wake? Yes, you heard that right. While they may not spew out exhaust fumes, they are not entirely innocent. Buckle up, folks, because tonight we're talking about the hidden cost of electric vehicles, brake dust. This is an issue that has been flying under the radar for far too long, and it's time we brought it into the spotlight. Yeah, you heard that right. Brake dust. It's not just a minor inconvenience or a cosmetic issue, it's a serious environmental and health concern that we need to address. It's not just something you find under your fingernails after changing a tire. It's a potent cocktail of heavy metals and other nasty stuff that gets released every time you hit the brakes. This dust contains harmful substances like copper, iron, and manganese, which can have serious health implications when inhaled. And it's not just a problem for the person driving the car. These particles can spread far and wide, affecting the air quality in our cities and posing a risk to everyone. And guess what? Electric cars, despite their eco-warrior reputation, produce just as much, if not more, brake dust than their gas-guzzling counterparts. This is because electric vehicles are often heavier due to their large batteries, which means their brakes have to work harder and generate more dust. So, while we celebrate the rise of electric vehicles and their potential to reduce our reliance on fossil fuels, we must also be aware of their hidden costs. Brake dust is a significant issue that needs to be addressed if we are to truly achieve a cleaner, healthier future. The good news is that there are solutions on the horizon. Advances in brake technology and materials are being developed to reduce the amount of dust produced. But it's up to us to demand these changes and ensure that our green machines are as clean as they can be. So next time you see an electric vehicle gliding silently down the street, remember that there's more to the story. Let's work together to make sure our green revolution is truly green, from the tailpipe to the brakes. Now you might be thinking, John, don't you have better things to do than scaremonger about brake dust? And to that I say, look, I'm just as surprised as you are. But this isn't some harebrained theory cooked up in my mom's basement. This is serious science, folks. A recent study by the University of Southampton, those brainy Brits, has blown the lid off this whole brake dust debacle. They found that while EVs might not pump out exhaust fumes, they're major contributors to something called non-exhaust emissions. In fact, in Europe, non-exhaust emissions from vehicles are now a bigger problem than those billowing tailpipes we're so used to seeing. And the main culprit? You guessed it, brake wear. But John, you might argue, it's just dust, right? We eat dust, we breathe dust, we even bathe in dust, sometimes. And while that last one might just be me, you're not wrong. Dust is everywhere. But here's the thing, not all dust is created equal. The particles released from brake pads are tiny, like smaller than a human hair tiny. And that's where things get a bit hairy, pun absolutely intended. You see, these microscopic particles are small enough to slip past our body's natural defenses. They can lodge themselves deep in our lung tissue, wreaking havoc on our respiratory systems. And it's not just our lungs that are at risk. Studies have linked brake dust exposure to everything from heart disease to cancer. Look, I'm not here to rain on anyone's electric parade. I understand the excitement around electric vehicles, and for good reason. I get it. Electric vehicles are a step in the right direction. They represent a significant shift towards more sustainable transportation. They help reduce our dependence on fossil fuels and combat climate change. By using renewable energy sources like wind and solar power, EVs can indeed lower our carbon footprint. But we need to stop pretending they're a magical zero-emission solution. The reality is more complex than that. The truth is, they come with their own set of environmental challenges, and it's time we start addressing them. For instance, the production of EV batteries involves mining for materials like lithium, cobalt, and nickel, which can have significant environmental and social impacts. The misconception that EVs are entirely emissions-free is a dangerous one. It oversimplifies the issue and can lead to a false sense of security. It leads to complacency and prevents us from tackling the real issue: all forms of pollution, regardless of their source. Air pollution isn't just about tailpipe emissions. It's also about the broader environmental impact of our choices. Sweeping brake dust under the rug, so to speak, just because it comes from an EV is like saying it's okay to litter as long as you're throwing away a recyclable bottle. We need to be more holistic in our approach to environmental sustainability. This means considering the entire life cycle of the vehicle, from production to disposal, and finding ways to minimize the environmental impact at every stage. It's not just about driving an electric car, it's about creating a sustainable system that supports it. We should also look at other sustainable practices like improving public transportation, encouraging cycling, and supporting local initiatives that reduce our overall carbon footprint. It's a collective effort that goes beyond just switching to electric vehicles. Ultimately, our goal should be to create a cleaner, healthier environment for future generations. And that requires a comprehensive approach to sustainability, one that includes but is not limited to electric vehicles. So let's celebrate the progress we've made with EVs, but let's also stay vigilant and committed to addressing all aspects of environmental impact. Only then can we truly make a difference. Section 5. Brake pad, breakdown, a toxic cocktail. Now, before you go full-on Mad Max and swear off all forms of transportation, let's break down what's actually in this brake dust that's got everyone so riled up. You see, brake dust is more than just a nuisance that dirties your wheels. It's a complex mixture of materials that can have serious implications for both human health and the environment. The Southampton study found that the composition of brake pads varies wildly. This isn't just a minor detail. It means that the type of brake pad you have can significantly impact the kind of pollutants you're releasing into the environment. Some are made with copper, others with iron, and each of these materials behaves differently when it comes to wear and tear. And some even contain nasty stuff like asbestos. Yes, you heard that right. Materials that have been banned in many other applications due to their severe health risks are still found in some brake pads. And guess what? Each of these materials comes with its own unique brand of health hazard. For instance, when brake pads wear down, they release tiny particles into the air, which can be inhaled by humans and animals alike. Copper, for instance, is toxic to aquatic life. When it washes off roads and into waterways, it can wreak havoc on aquatic ecosystems, poisoning fish and other marine life. That's right, your shiny new EV could be contributing to the demise of Flipper and friends. It's a bitter pill to swallow, especially when we think we're doing the right thing by going electric. Iron, on the other hand, while less directly toxic, can react with other pollutants in the air to form harmful compounds. These compounds can contribute to respiratory issues and other health problems in urban areas. And don't even get me started on asbestos. This material is a known carcinogen, meaning it can cause cancer. The fact that it's still found in some brake pads is alarming, to say the least. That's a whole other can of carcinogenic worms we don't have time for tonight. But suffice it to say, the materials in brake pads are a toxic cocktail that we need to address sooner rather than later. So next time you hit the brakes, remember, it's not just your safety at stake, but the health of our planet too. Section 6. Legislative lag playing catch-up with pollution. So what's being done about this invisible menace? Well, the good news is that some folks are finally starting to take notice. The bad news is that, as usual, legislation is lagging woefully behind the problem. See, current pollution regulations are primarily focused on exhaust emissions. That means all those nasty particles spewing from your brakes, they're basically getting a free pass. It's like setting strict rules for what you can throw in the trash, but completely ignoring the giant pile of garbage you're hoarding in your backyard. Sure, you're technically following the rules, but you're not exactly winning any good neighbor awards, are you? Section 7. The bigger picture. A holistic approach to emissions. The takeaway here isn't that electric vehicles are bad or that we should all go back to riding horses, although let's be honest, that would be pretty awesome. The point is that we need to stop thinking in such black and white terms. It's not about EVs versus gas guzzlers. It's about recognizing that all forms of transportation come with an environmental cost. And we need to be honest about those costs if we're going to find truly sustainable solutions. Instead of focusing solely on tailpipe emissions, we need a more holistic approach to pollution control. one that takes into account all sources of vehicle emissions, including tire wear, road dust, and yes, even brake dust. Section 8. The EV Crossroads Innovation Meets Responsibility. The good news is that there are solutions on the horizon. Car manufacturers are already exploring alternative brake pad materials that are less toxic and produce less dust. Regenerative braking systems, which capture energy during braking and use it to recharge the battery, can also help reduce brake wear. But technology alone isn't enough. We need stricter regulations that hold car manufacturers accountable for all forms of pollution, not just the ones we can see billowing out of an exhaust pipe. Section 9. A breath of fresh air towards a cleaner future. The future of transportation is electric, there's no doubt about that. But if we want that future to be truly clean and sustainable, we need to acknowledge and address the hidden costs of electric vehicles. By tackling the issue of brake dust head-on, we can ensure that our pursuit of a greener tomorrow doesn't come at the expense of our health and the health of our planet. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go invest in a really good air purifier, and maybe a